Well, now it's time to loot with an It's safe to say we'll have some fun today on Geek World Radio.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Geek World Radio. So this week we're going to continue on talking a little bit about Marvel. This time we're going to talk about the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show that's currently in the works.
That's right, it's going to be on ABC. Basically, it's not going to really be the Avengers, it's going to be all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And of course, the main one is going to be Agent Coulson.
Right, Agent Phil Coulson, who we were introduced to in really all of the Marvel movies that have come out.
Yeah.
And we saw him die in the Avengers.
Of course, people heard that and they're like, oh, so maybe this is like a prequel and stuff like that.
Well,
but
it's not.
They've already said that this is going to take place after the events of the Avengers, leaving all of us to go, what?
So what we're going to talk about today is how it's possible that Agent Phil Coulson could be in this S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Ooh.
So let's start off with the most likely ways that he will be in this show.
We saw him get stabbed by Loki. He had like a heart-wrenching discussion with Nick Fury.
Yep.
And of course, what's the main possibility, Anime, of how he's still alive?
He might not have died in the first place. We might have just seen him kind of lose consciousness from loss of blood, and Nick Fury used that as a way of pretty much getting the Avengers together by saying that Agent Coulson was dead in order to unify them.
Exactly. I mean, we're on the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. This has to be like the most advanced facility ever.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they have like a medical area that they could be able to save him. And this is definitely the most likely scenario. And this is what most stories, at least in the real world, would probably do.
Right. Okay, so the next most likely scenario is one that's become a staple in the Marvel Universe. The LMD, or Life Model Decoy.
Yes.
Now, this is something that actually started in the Nick Fury comic books in the 60s. So it's something that's been around, especially with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury, forever.
Exactly. So basically, these LMDs are lifelike androids for the S.H.I.E.L.D. VIPs. So these LMDs are exact copies of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Everything from their skin, hair, and speech patterns.
Right, they also can mimic their eyes so that they can pass retinal scans, and their thought patterns so that telepaths can't tell the difference.
And I bet they're just as smelly as the human ones, too.
Yeah!
Just in case. And you gotta think, you know, they need like a massive antiperspirant because they're always trying to save the world.
Well, and with all like the X-Men and stuff out there, like, you know, some of them have really good senses of smell.
Exactly, yeah. Wolverine would know the difference. If Wolverine was in this franchise, he'd be like, that is not Agent Coulson, bub.
Yeah, didn't that happen in the first X-Men movie?
Exactly, yeah. That's how he sniffed out Mystique.
Literally.
So basically, this is a convention they've used in a ton of the S.H.I.E.L.D. comic books and everything with Nick Fury in it. So these are definitely the most likely scenario. And on top of that, in the actual Avengers movie, there's a funny little part where, you know, Tony Stark is dodging Phil Coulson's calls, and he actually answers the call and pretends to be his own LMD.
Yeah.
So right there, Joss Whedon planted the seeds.
Right. So if you have access to the Avengers, you might want to check that out.
But there is always a chance that it wasn't fake, and it wasn't an LMD. Right. So, what are we going to talk about, Anime?
We're going to talk about other ways that the Marvel Universe has killed off characters and then brought them back.
Exactly. We're not going to talk about every one because there's a billion of them. We're not going to talk about comic books in general because that will take forever. We're just talking about Marvel Comics. Okay, so there's a few different ways that this always seems to happen.
Yes.
First off, there is, of course, the fake death.
Right. And, you know, that's kind of what I brought up as one of the possible main reasons. But the fake death is sometimes way more extensive than that. Then we find out, like, issues and issues later, oh, they're not really dead. Kind of like the time that Norman Osborn lied and said that Harry Osborn had died, but really he had brought him to, like, rehab.
So it seemed like Harry died from being poisoned by that goblin juice they all seem to drink in that family. But in actuality, Mysterio caused an illusion, and they ended up taking him to, like, rehab for his goblin juice addiction. Don't do goblin juice, kids. And one of the other main ways that they fake these deaths in the Marvel Universe is clones. And everyone seems to have some sort of different clone. Sabretooth had a clone. Iron Fist had a doppelganger. All these people, you think they're dead, but actually it wasn't them. It was a clone.
Very much like the Life Model Decoys. But either way, it's not a real death.
So one of the other ways is you think a character is dead, but in actuality, they just got thrown into the time stream somewhere. Mr. Fantastic ended up in the past.
Yep.
Cable ended up in the future. This stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, sometimes they get sent off to some alternate dimension.
Exactly. Sometimes they have hoverboards. Sometimes they almost make out with their mom. You know how it is. Time travel.
Yeah. So to go along with this whole time thing, sometimes these characters are saved by time travelers, like the time that Ant-Man was saved by the Young Avengers.
Yeah, sometimes these people come in and they travel through time and they basically save the younger version of that hero right before they die.
Mm-hmm. Another way that they bring these characters back is that sometimes they just happen to be rescued, and we don't know about it until later. Bucky was rescued by the Russians.
And brainwashed.
Mm-hmm. And used as an occasional assassin.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and along with that, sometimes they're just kidnapped. You think they're dead, but they've actually been taken. Wolverine was kidnapped by Apocalypse to become his Death Horseman. And also, all the ladies in Peter Parker's life, Mary Jane Watson, Aunt May, they've been kidnapped too. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's not cool.
That is
but then
not
they
cool.
bring them back, and that is kind of cool.
That is sweet.
Or not if they died in a way that, that seemed really meaningful.
Okay, now the ultimate of silliness, and this probably will not happen during the Avengers, but you never know, is there's some characters that are so powerful that they can literally control reality as they see fit. You know, Scarlet Witch has killed and brought back a bunch of different characters.
Yeah.
Franklin Richards brought back the entire Marvel Universe in a pocket universe for that whole Heroes Reborn thing. And on top of that, also, Psylocke's brother has reality-bending powers. So he brought her back after she died.
Yeah, now this tends to happen with characters that have mutant powers.
Yes.
Really, it almost always happens with characters with mutant powers. So really, this is something that we don't have to worry about because Fox owns all that.
So of course, one of the most famous Marvel deaths in Resurrections of all time was when Jean Grey died and came back as the Phoenix.
But I can pretty much guarantee that Phil Coulson is not a Phoenix.
There's a slight possibility that he's not.
Okay, so now that we've gotten through a lot of the kind of fake outs and other things like that, there are times when a character dies, but then actually gets resurrected.
It's amazing. It happens all the time.
Yeah, there's a variety of different ways that this happens. For example, aliens. Sometimes it's aliens, like in the case of the Human Torch or Colossus.
Exactly. Or sometimes it's something completely insane, like the time the Punisher came back because of angels. And they gave him supernatural powers.
Or sometimes it's like the time that the Punisher was brought back as Frankencastle.
Which, by the way, is still what I actually hope happens with Agent Phil Coulson. Because that would be awesome.
That would rock.
Franken Coulson. That would be the coolest. Hey, Anime.
Yeah?
Do you like ninjas?
I do.
Well, fantastic, because the Hand is responsible for a ton of resurrections. They resurrected Elektra, they resurrected Northstar, they resurrected Sabretooth. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know when these guys have times for ninja battles and throwing down smoke bombs if they're resurrecting everybody all the time.
Ninja magic. So with some characters like Thor, there's different realms, like a death realm, and some of the characters are occasionally able to escape, and that's a way that they're able to bring those back. Okay, so the final way that Agent Phil Coulson could come back from the dead, and I think that really, maybe this one is the most likely way.
I think so, definitely, yes.
He could be drawn back into existence by the one above all, like what happened to the Thing.
Exactly. The Thing died, so the Fantastic Three that were left decided to go to heaven and get him back.
Yep.
So they get to heaven, and they finally meet the one above all, who mysteriously looked a little bit like Jack Kirby.
And by a little bit, you mean a lot.
Exactly. And they were able to bring the Thing back because he drew him back into existence.
Yeah.
I definitely think you're right, Anime. That would be the best way. Or, the LMD. Either one works.
Yeah.
Life model decoy or drawn back into life.
Either way.
It's cool either way. But yeah, that's it, right, Anime?
I think that's it.
There's a ton of deaths and resurrections all throughout comic books, but that's just a few of the great Marvel ways.
So we can't wait to see Agent Phil Coulson in the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, and we can't wait for the show.
Okay, that's it. See you next week. If you guys want to listen to our radio show, it plays every week on Indie 100 and The Point.
And if you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email to geekworldradio@yahoo.com and check out our website, geekworldradio.com.
Okay, that's it. I'm going to go get me some goblin juice. Bye!
Well, now it's time to loot with an non-stop day. It's safe to say we'll have some fun today on Geek World Radio.